What's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Hero Kris back at you with another one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, give me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, the community post, Bluesky if you still use that. You already know the vibes, and I'm back at you with your AEW Worlds End review. And first things first, man, from me to you, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you celebrate. Happy Festivus even. That was a thing. Remember Festivus? I remember Festivus. You're not here to hear me talk about Festivus. You're here to hear me talk about AEW. And World's End, man, totally different from last year. Last year's World's End was probably one of the worst AEW pay-per-views ever. So this year's show definitely had a low bar to climb as far as topping last year's show. And I gotta be honest with you, man, it was an overall fun show. 8 matches, Continental Classics, championship matches, returns, shenanigans, blood, so much blood. Let's talk about it. Speaking of the Continental Classic, man, it started off, the first match was between Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. And man, this was a great way to start the show. This is the way I was hoping the show would start, with Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher, graps, flips, dives. Like I said, blood. There was a lot of blood in this match, man. Will Ospreay bled like he was about to die for real. Like, I was really concerned with all the blood that Will Ospreay was losing. And the fact that Will Ospreay was bleeding so much kind of told me that he was going to win the match and go on to the finals of the Continental Classic. And that's exactly what happened, man. Will Ospreay ended up getting the win. He's bleeding all over the place. He was headbutting Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher was doing his thing. A lot of people on Twitter were predicting that he would win. I was going with big Will Ospreay. I was right. He ends up facing the winner of Okada versus Ricochet. And this match wasn't as good as the opening match, but it was still a good match nonetheless. The absolute best part of Okada versus Ricochet was the crowd and everything that they were chanting at Ricochet. Ricochet came out the heel tunnel, so he's officially a bad guy now. The crowd was chanting, nah, 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 hey, you're bald. And I'm like, yo, they really do not mess with Ricochet at all. And it's really hard for me to pinpoint the exact moment where people just decided, you know what, we really don't like Ricochet, we're gonna boo him and turn him heel. But it was great, along with, you know, the corny heel thing that Ricochet is doing. He's just doing great as far as the character work goes, as far as being a heel goes, as far as the, you know, him working the crowd. It was just phenomenal, right? And at first I was a little disappointed because when Ricochet was making his entrance, nobody threw any toilet paper. But by the end of the match, by the end of, you know, the whole segment with Ricochet, that was more than made up for. But as I thought, you know, Okada ended up getting the win over Ricochet. Ricochet lost, but he cut it. It came real close, man. It was a couple moments where I thought that Ricochet was going to pull it off, but big Kazuchika Okada ended up getting the win. You know, he's going on to the finals. It's going to be him versus Will Ospreay. And then after the match, you see Ricochet. He's in the middle of the ring, like he's looking disappointed. He's looking upset. And somebody finally threw some toilet paper at him, and I was like, yes, cool. But then he was interrupted by none other than whose house? Swerve's house. And Swerve lived up to his promise by telling Ricochet if he lost, he was going to rub it in his face and he was going to embarrass Ricochet and do it big. And, you know, Swerve is talking about how we're going to go into the new year with a clean slate. We're going to clean up this mess. And as Swerve is talking, Prince Nana comes out with a trolley full of toilet paper, and I'm like, no, he's not going to do what I think he's going to do. And he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. Prince Nana was handing out toilet paper to the crowd. Everyone's in the front row, and he was saying, don't throw it yet, wait for the cue. And then Swerve says, 3, 2, 1, Happy New Year. And everyone threw toilet paper at Ricochet. And the way it landed on Ricochet, it was just picture perfect. He was in the middle of the ring just looking just pissed off, toilet paper down, looking like a bald mummy. And it was perfect, man. It was just a perfect reaction, perfect from the crowd. Great throws, by the way, man. So we're setting up a big match between Swerve and Ricochet. And on top of all of that, we still have this feud going on with Swerve and the Hurt Syndicate. So, me personally, I predict that this is how Ricochet ends up getting into the Hurt Syndicate. I think MVP is going to do something like, if you can take out Swerve, you're in. We're going to give you another card. You're in the group. So maybe that's how Ricochet ends up getting into the Hurt Syndicate. Maybe not. I don't know. But that was an overall fun segment. But now we're just going to go ahead and fast forward to the final match of the Continental Classic for this year. And that's between Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada. And, before the match, Will Ospreay was like, look, man, I've lost a lot of blood, but that doesn't matter because at the end of the day, I'm going to beat Okada. I'm going to win the Continental Classic. And I'm going to Disneyland, bro. That wasn't really the case, but we did get a good match between Ospreay and Okada. And I predicted that Ospreay was going to win. A lot of people thought that Okada was going to win. And I legit would have been cool either way with whoever would have won. And there were several spots where it looked like Big Will was going to win the Continental Classic. It looked like he was going to win the championship. He kicked out of a Rainmaker. Okada did the NXT shocked face. But a couple of DDTs, a couple Rainmakers later, Kazuchika Okada is still your Continental Champion. He won the C2 for this year. And he's officially, by AEW standards, the best tournament wrestler of all time. I think he's won 5 tournament matches at this point. So, good for him. Good for Okada. Good for the tournament. And then you have Christopher Daniels come out. And he's saying that normally he would come out and present Okada with the Continental Championship. But that's not what he's here for. Because he is no longer an EVP. This man is an EVP, and it is the return of Kenny by God Omega, the god of professional wrestling, better than Gotch, better than Hackenschmidt. The best bout machine is back. He's returned. He is here, and he ends up presenting Okada with the Continental Championship. And the whole time you can see the All-In banner in the background, and I'm like, I want to see this match now. I don't want to wait all the way until July for Okada versus Omega, but we'll see where this ends up, when this ends up happening, what ends up going down between Omega and Okada. And the thing that kind of made me chuckle to myself quietly was the fact that Tony Schiavone was like, oh man, we don't know when we'll see Kenny Omega wrestle again. And Excalibur was like, well, he's going to wrestle in New Japan in a couple weeks, so... There you go. There's your big answer as far as when Kenny Omega is going to wrestle again. But as far as when he wrestles in AEW again, we just got to wait and see. But I am happy to see Kenny Omega back. He's looking good. He's looking healthy. He looked good in his suit, man. Kenny's back. There's feeling is back. And that's not the only return we're going to talk about, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. As far as the rest of the show goes, man, we had a Tijuana street fight between Mariah May and Thunder Rosa. And I had some pretty high expectations for this match because Thunder Rosa, along with Willow Nightingale and Kris Statlander, those are your big 3 when it comes to street fights, Falls Count Anywhere, any type of pointer matches for as far as the women goes. And this match didn't disappoint, man. It was pretty solid. It wasn't the best match ever, but it was still good nonetheless. You had thumbtacks and tequila and tables and pile drivers and dirt from a grave being thrown in someone's face. And Mariah May made fun of Thunder Rosa's dad. She stole his cane, so that was the thing. Mariah May ended up winning after she hit a pile driver on Thunder Rosa through a table. Like I said, it was a pretty good match, pretty solid, pretty fun, Surprisingly, no blood. There was more blood in the Ospreay Fletcher match than it was in the street fight match. That was the only thing that kind of threw me off. I was like, surely this match would have blood because both Mariah May and Thunder Rosa don't mind bleeding, but didn't happen. We got a little bit of blood from the thumbtack, but not what I was expecting, but still a good match. So after this, we get the big match that nobody really cared about between Adam Cole and MJF. Now, I will say this, when both Adam Cole and MJF came out, they did get a good reaction from the crowd. But outside of that, man, MJF had to work overtime in order to get the crowd invested. He was really flipping off the crowd. He was chanting, he was telling the crowd to shut the hell up and all of that. So he was doing his thing as far as, getting a reaction from the people. But for the most part, man, I don't think the people really cared. I know I didn't really care. This feud has been all over the place. It wasn't really all that good. Adam Cole looks ridiculously pale. Like, I don't know what Adam Cole has going on. Either he goes too hard with the tan, he doesn't tan right, or he doesn't tan at all. I don't know what's going on, but outside of that, man, I didn't really care for the match. And outside of that, man, you had the Undisputed Kingdom out there. They were supposed to be like the watchers over the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And everyone was expecting the Undisputed Kingdom to turn on Adam Cole and join up with MJF. And that's exactly what I didn't want, but I was expecting it to happen. And it didn't. MJF did that thing where he pretended that he got attacked by the Undisputed Kingdom in order for them to get thrown out of the match. And then MJF took the Dynamite Diamond Ring. He was going to cheat to use it. Adam Cole ended up hitting it with a super kick. MJF hit Adam Cole with a low blow, hit him with a heat seeker, and ended up winning the match. 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, oh, well, thank God this is over. Thank God the Undisputed Kingdom didn't turn heel on Adam Cole. And then after that, you had the return of Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. And I'm like, oh, God, they're going to turn on Adam Cole. That didn't happen. They ended up attacking MJF. And I guess the power of friendship ended up winning in the end. They're all friends again. So hopefully this is the end of the whole Adam Cole MJF saga. Hopefully everyone does their own thing. The Undisputed Kingdom, they do their thing over there. MJF, he does his thing over here, and we never talk about this ever again in life. We don't mention this. We don't talk about Better Than You, baby. We don't talk about the devil. We don't talk about none of this. We don't even talk about Wardlow. None of this happened. This is all a dream. We all just move on from this and never speak about this ever again in life. But something we do have to talk about is the International Championship between Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs. Now, the build of this match was pretty much non-existent outside of, a couple promos on Collision and Rampage. Outside of that, man, if you didn't pay attention to those shows, you would have never knew that this match was going down. With that being said, though, the match between Takeshita and Hobbs was actually really good. It was one of those bumping meat type matches where they're both, throwing each other around, especially Hobbs, man. He was doing a whole bunch of power moves. Takeshita was working over the knee. There was one spot where Hobbs was going for a superplex and they both kind of slipped off the top of the turnbuckle, and the crowd started chanting, "Please be careful." And I was getting kind of nervous because I thought that Hobbs was injured for real. Like, he was really selling the knee, and I was like, please don't really be injured. But I'm thinking he was selling the knee. Takeshita ended up getting the win, and it was a pretty solid match, man. I just wish that it was built up a little bit better. And hopefully Powerhouse Hobbs ends up winning some gold in 2025 because dude's awesome. He's over. The people love him. He's good on the mic. He's a big man. He's believable. You would believe him as your champion. So hopefully there's things that come up big for big Powerhouse Hobbs. Speaking of coming up big, man, we had the rematch between Mercedes Moné and Kris Statlander. And a lot of people were thinking, well, the first match was so good. How can this live up to the hype of the first match? And surprisingly, it did. It's still early for me to say that if it's better than the first match, but I will say that this was a really, 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 really good match. Several spots where you thought that Kris Statlander was going to end up beating Mercedes, but Mercedes ended up getting one. She kind of went with a seatbelt type pin, and the CEO is still going on strong. She's still double champion, still the TBS champion. She's still the CEO. The people recognize that this was a good match, even though they were really vocal and loud about it. After the match, you did have people chanting CEO and people, clapping it up for Kris Statlander. So it was an overall good match. I really enjoyed it. Hell, let's do it again, man. Give them a third match, man. I don't care. So after this, we have the main event, the big fatal four-way for the soul of AEW, man. You have Orange Cassidy taking on Hangman Adam Page, taking on Switchblade Jay White, taking on the leader of the Death Riders, Jon Moxley, the man who destroyed Rampage. He canceled Rampage by himself with the Death Riders. They finally see the Superstation, good for you, Jon Moxley. Good for you, Death Riders. And as far as this match goes, man, it was okay. It was okay. The build with the Death Riders, Some weeks is good, some weeks I'm kind of like, yo, what is really going on? But as far as the match goes, man, it was all right, man. We had a shield bomb. It had Orange Cassidy and Switchblade and Hangman do the triple power bomb on Jon Moxley, so that was pretty funny. It was a whole bunch of Can They Coexist. You had Hook and Christian watching the match. Actually, you had Christian watching the match and Hook was watching Christian, so that's still a thing going forward. And I predicted Jon Moxley was going to win. A lot of people thought that Jon Moxley was going to win, but for a brief second, it looked like Jay White was going to win it all. He was going to take the match, but the Death Riders pulled up from 3, and shenanigans took over, and Jon Moxley ended up getting the win. And then after the match, you have the Death Riders attacking Jay White, and then you have FTR pull up. And I'm like, oh shit, okay, FTR. We wasn't expecting them until Dynamite this Wednesday, but good for FTR. And then you have the return of Adam Copeland, and my whole thinking was, what would happen at the end of the show, I thought this was going to happen on Dynamite, but instead it happened on the pay-per-view, which makes sense because it sets up a big trios match between Rated FTR and the Death Riders. So then you have Rated FTR pull up, they attack the Death Riders. Adam Copeland does that thing with the part of the chair where he does the crossface, where he puts the piece in Jon Moxley's mouth and he hits the crossface, and the Death Riders end up saving Jon Moxley's ass. And then you have Adam Copeland get on the mic. He actually has to get a second mic because the first mic didn't work, but then Adam Copeland says he's coming for Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. FTR is in the building. And like I said, this sets up the big trios match between Rated FTR and the Death Riders. And I'm assuming Adam Copeland is going to be the next challenger for the AEW Championship. And you also have Christian waiting in the wings. So who knows where this whole situation is going to go? Like, could Adam Copeland be the guy that beats Jon Moxley? Man, I don't know. I was thinking it was going to be Darby Allin, but the Death Riders murdered Darby Allin on Rampage, so he still could be the guy. But right now, it's looking like Jon Moxley is gonna end up wrestling Adam Copeland in the near future. So with that being said, man, that was the last AEW pay-per-view of Big 2024, the last wrestling pay-per-view of 2024 for mainstream America. And I gotta say, I'm excited to see what this new Max deal has in store with AEW going forward. Another new era for AEW is in the future, so I'm excited to see what happens. We have the return of Kenny Omega, we have the return of Adam Copeland, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store as far as AEW goes. Hopefully, man, they can start building back up that momentum. We'll see. I still believe in AEW. I still enjoy AEW a lot, so hopefully it's all up from here. But with that being said, guys, what did you think of AEW Worlds End? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You guys take care. Peace. I'm out. Peace. Happy New Year.